This is amateur meteorologist Cameron Fry coming at you with a special Christmas and New Year's winter weather forecast briefing for Middle Tennessee. This briefing is being cut around 5 o'clock on Thursday evening and will be valid through the end of 2017 into the first few days of 2018. So let's talk about our contents. First, we're going to talk about the weekend flooding threat for Middle Tennessee and West Tennessee. We're going to talk about the upcoming pattern change that's set to take place between the 24th and 26th, with Christmas being right in the middle of that. We're going to talk about the Christmas Day forecast, why we're not going to see a white Christmas, but also why we could see some winter weather mischief in the 28th through 30th time frame. Let's look at our current weather, and we note a couple features with respect to our region. We note some advection of warm, moist air that's coming in our direction. We see a warm front draped to our north that is connected to a surface low that's situated over the Kansas-Missouri border. Got that cold front exiting southward from the low, and this frontal system will be approaching Middle Tennessee over the next couple hours. Initially, we'll see some light precip, but the precip will pick up in a big way tomorrow. And we see that with our rainfall estimates, 24-hour rate, total rainfall expected. We see that horizontal slug of moisture across I-40, places like Waverly, Nashville, on over to Crossville, seeing over 1.25 inches of rain-ish, but up towards land between the lakes, not as much, maybe 1/4 inch, half an inch. Now, that's a moot point when you look at the total storm rainfall from 6 a.m. tomorrow to Saturday, 6 p.m., that 36-hour period. We're going to see copious amounts of rainfall on excess of 3 to 4 inches for the northwest half of Middle Tennessee. We have that heavy band setting up over Centerville, Columbia, Nashville, Cookeville, Jamestown. If this was snow, that would be your deformation band area, greatest divergence aloft. However, these are not set in stone. These are estimates, so just know that chances are, if you're living in Middle Tennessee, you're going to see multiple inches of rain the next 36 to 48 hours. And because of that heavy rainfall expected, the National Weather Service has issued a Day 2 excessive rainfall outlook where, based on where that heaviest slug of moisture sets up, those locations will be in a moderate risk with a slight risk narrowly outlining it. So we need to pay attention, and we need to heed the warning. It's cool to note that the National Weather Service has started breaking down their severe weather criteria and their hazard levels. So you can see we don't have a whole lot to worry about damaging wind, hail, tornadoes, but flooding we're kind of in between medium and high, closer to medium, so we'll see what transpires there. As a result of the excessive rainfall outlook for Friday, the National Weather Service in Nashville has issued a flash flood watch from noon Friday until noon Saturday for all counties in the Middle Tennessee viewing area. All right, let's talk about the general weather setup for next week. I know this map may not tell you much, but basically all you need to know is where you see the blue shading that represents areas of below average heights, negative temperature anomalies. Where you see the greens and yellows, that represents positive temp anomalies or above average heights. So we see that trough, as represented by the blue, digging into the central United States, into Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, and that's going to be heading in our direction, in large part because of what lies above it, that blocking presence, that area of high heights that extends from northeast Canada into Baffin Bay and southwest Greenland. Pretty massive. There's some good correlation between blocking of that magnitude and the type of cold air that invades. So that's a good look if you're wanting wintry precip in Middle Tennessee. Teleconnections, there's a lot we could talk about, but I want to draw your attention to the EPO and how negative it's shaping up to be, as represented by those blue columns. We talk about a negative EPO, we're talking about a ridge of high pressure or warm air aloft south of Alaska that really dominates the northern Pacific, and that allows an Arctic high oftentimes to set up to the northeast of that, establishes some cross-polar flow, or at least gets cold air. It gives it a channel down to the lower 48, essentially, which obviously impacts us. All right, let's walk through the 12Z GFS animation, where we see that precip shield just blossoming out of Texas, approaching us from the southwest with those heavy bands and slugs of moisture invading west and Middle Tennessee. So, like we talked about, we're going to see a lot of rain in the next couple of days. That is for sure. We progress out into Saturday, and we see that northwest side of the precip shield turning to snow for portions of southern Illinois and central Indiana. And that system is going to eventually scoot on out of here and out of the picture. However, that trough will continue to dig. And along it, a weak shortwave of energy on Christmas Eve, bringing some snow showers to central Illinois and Indiana, into Ohio and Pennsylvania, the Virginias on Christmas Day. But for here, we're going to be dry, it looks like. Maybe cloudy due to our proximity to the system passing to our north. But we see that high, that 1034 high hugging the Oklahoma-Arkansas border on Christmas. That will be scooting to our south and kind of dominating the pattern the days after, Tuesday and Wednesday, if you have anything you want to do. Next week after Christmas, the weather's looking great, honestly. It's not until we get until Thursday, December 28th, where we see some fun and games, some winter weather mischief brewing. And right now it looks like whatever happens, it's going to start out as rain as the moisture moves into the area before the cold enough air, I should say. But we see the big player, one of our big players, that 1055 high that's hugging the Minnesota-North Dakota border around noon on Thursday. That's going to usher in or help usher in some cold air. And as we get into Friday, December 29th, that rain shield, we start to see that wintry mix converting over portions of Middle Tennessee. And with it looks like all snow just toward north of Kentucky, eventually that wintry mix would turn to snow for the vast majority of Tennessee. So could we be talking about a setup where we go from rain to wintry mix to snow? It's on the table. Now let's look at just some amounts, and if the operational 12Z GFS is verified, you see that there's going to be a ton of snow for all of Kentucky. Kentucky gets blasted on this run. For us, not so much. You look at the numbers, and 3.6 inches of snow for Nashville, nothing to write off. 7.6 for Clarksville. However, the reason why the amounts are lower here is because of, again, the wintry mix, the sleet and freezing rain cutting into those amounts. Now, if you include sleet, man, everything, those amounts explode. Again, we're assuming a 10-to-1 snow liquid ratio. But again, I caution, this is one operational run, and this could change. And the bigger thing is, what do the ensembles say? That's going to be a question I come back to in a little bit here. Let's look at the GFS 500 millibar chart. We see evidence of that trough digging in, those blue shading, penetrating all the way down to Alabama. Those blue shadings representative of the below average heights there. Now let's look at the 500 millibar chart on the Canadian. And this is a vorticity chart, and it basically analyzes the strength and the magnitude of the short waves rotating through the troughs. And we see plenty of vorticity action, or should I say vorticity advection, in our region, which lines up with the trough. Could we get a system rotating along that trough with the cold air established in place, which is something we're not going to have this weekend or on Christmas? That's the big question. We look at the Canadian, the precip type at the surface, and we see that this would affect mostly the eastern half of Tennessee with snow. Not so much for Nashville, unfortunately. We're a little to the west of that dividing line. But areas to the east, Chattanooga, Knoxville, this could be a home run snow for you potentially by the 12Z Canadian. And the amounts would suggest kind of Memphis to Nashville, that I-40 stretch gets shut out, that dry slot, reminiscent of the winter 2013-14, where Knoxville you get 3 inches, Crossville maybe 3 inches, Huntsville 2, Chattanooga 3. Again, not etched in stone, but, the point is that there's still quite a bit of variability among the models. And then you look at the 12Z Euro for next Friday, and it shuts us out entirely, at least of snow. That looks more mild and wet than anything else, unfortunately. So, but again, I talked about measuring the operational versus the ensembles. The ensembles contain over 50 members, with the operational being kind of the deterministic run among those ensembles. So the operational can be off with the ensembles being more correct. We're still at a point where we're far out enough to where heating the ensembles is the wiser move. We look at the Euro ensembles, and we see that some of them paint quite a bit of snow for our area. Although, for me, I pay attention to what the mean amount on the ensembles, and we only see, amounts under an inch. So not a whole lot of snow, but there's the potential for more. And that's, at this point, we're just talking about trends and patterns, and the trend and pattern is looking like, when you add it all up and average it all out, that snow is becoming a more likely possibility the last couple of days of 2017. We look at CPC's day 6 through 10 outlook. That looks at temperature probability. We see a big ingredient setting up, and that's the cold air. That's the first ingredient you want when you want wintry precipitation in the south. And then you have the moisture. We have above average opportunities for moisture, and you see those darker greens. That's in large part the flooding rains coming up this weekend. But when you marry these two graphics here coming off the CPC, the 6 to 8 and the colder than average temperatures marrying the above average moisture, something usually good happens out of that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Last graphic one with this, the experimental winter weather outlook. This is looking at next Wednesday 12th to next Thursday the 28th, and a 10 to 30% chance that there'll be 0.25 inches of liquid equivalent of snow, sleet. If that was a 10 to 1 ratio, that's 2.5 inches of snow and sleet. We're in that zone, and that is going to probably scoot to the east with time. Again, 10-30% this far out, that should raise our antennas a little bit. So, anywho, that's all for now. I didn't want to get too heavy into all the charts I could have shown, but the main takeaway is that we're going to see a lot of rain in the short term. We're going to see a cloudy, dry forecast for Christmas Day, though the pattern will be changing as we open up the creds underneath the Christmas tree. And it's looking that even if we don't see snow and sleet next week, we're definitely going to see some cold invade our portion of the country. Could we see some winter fun and games? Yes, it's on the table. The Canadian shows some good snowfall for eastern Tennessee. The GFS just pummels the northern two-thirds of Tennessee and Kentucky and impacts a lot in our viewing area. So we'll have to pay attention to see if the 12Z GFS is sniffing something out. I didn't show a graphic from the 12Z GFS ensembles, but the majority of them do paint some accumulating snow for Nashville between now and the end of the year. So again, we're looking at patterns, but just wanted to cover all these bases with you. And so I guess for now, I will sign off and just say thanks for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful Thursday night, a great weekend despite the rain, and hope you get those last minute Christmas errands done. And if I don't hear from you until then, have a wonderful Christmas, New Year's, and I'll catch you on the fry. Peace.